Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to NDNA's event today, an afternoon with Camilla Reid. I'm Glenn Rothwell. I'm the Membership Services Manager for NDNA, and I'll be your host for today's events. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. We are delighted to welcome Camilla for the latest edition of our series of free webinars with inspirational speakers that NDNA provides as a benefit to our members. Camilla is one of the UK's most successful early years authors, known for her uniquely engaging, child-friendly books. Among her most successful books are the Pip and Posy stories and the Peekaboo board book series. A passionate campaigner for early years reading, Camilla will give a talk on the power of reading in early years, and she'll be speaking for about 1 hour this afternoon, before then spending some time answering your questions. If you do have any questions for Camilla, we'll ask them at the end of her talk, and you can use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So you're going to hear from Camilla shortly, but just before that, we will have a short message from Hope, who I would like to thank for sponsoring this event. And then we'll have a short welcome and introduction from NDNA's new Chief Executive Officer, Tim McLaughlin. So if we can go to the Hope video now.
Hi, I'm Michelle from Hope. I hope you're all well and looking forward to the knowledge and insight that's about to be shared. I'm sure it will be invaluable. At Hope, we think the job you do is the most important on earth, nurturing, caring for and inspiring our youngest generation. And for that, we want to say thank you and support you all we can. As the NDNA's corporate partner, Hope are delighted to offer fantastic member benefits when you shop with us. Did you know that you get 15% off every order you place with us throughout the year, and also a one-off 20% discount to be used once in the year, perhaps on one of the larger orders so that you make the most of the savings? We understand budgets are tight, so we've put together a list of over 200 essential items with savings of up to 70%, including art and craft essentials, stationery supplies, cleaning, nappies and play sand. And you won't have to wait for your order because we offer you free next day delivery on all orders with no minimum spend. So if you've not signed up already, it's really easy to do. Just go to our website www.hope-education.co.uk/NDNA. Thanks very much for your time. Hi.
Okay, great. So thanks once again to Hope, whose sponsorship helps make these events possible. So now I'm going to pass over to Tim. If you're ready, I'll pass over to you for your introduction.
Thank you, Glenn, and good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to say three thank yous, and that is thank you to you as the providers and practitioners for joining us this afternoon. Thank you to Hope for making this webinar possible. And the first of, I'm sure, a number of thank yous to Camilla for being our presenter this afternoon. I know we're looking forward to all that she's going to share. I've just got 5 slides I'd like to share with you on how NDNA is promoting and defending you, the sector, in these times of great change and challenge. So if I could have the next slide, please. So firstly, I want us to highlight our underfunded childcare campaign. And in the chat, you're going to see a link to this page. And there's a whole list of things that we are doing and have done for the sector, for you. And we just wanted to highlight those to you. It is a battle in terms of trying to get the right funding. And these are some of the things that we've done. So asking ministers to pause the implementation of the guidance and challenging the DfE's decision to reject our suggestion, writing to all the council CEOs in the country, but most of all, giving individual members the opportunity to raise their concerns, not just in the media, but for us to go directly to the Department of Education. If we could have the next slide, please. So one of the things that we have promoted is actually what Nottingham Council have done, and that is highlighted what they will not fund at the moment, and actually calculating that with £1.37, we're supposed to provide all of that. So we've challenged that. We're wanting to make sure that we get the right funding across the sector. Thank you. Next slide, please. And 2 other things I'd like to share. Our petition that you can see a link is going to be posted in the chat. We really want to get this petition about exempting all nurseries from employer NI contributions. We know the burden that this places upon every provider. And it came as a shock to everyone that this came in with this new government. So we want to make sure that we get this petition up to 10,000 signatures. So please, please click on the signature, the link to make your add your signature, so that we can get that up to 10,000, ideally before the end of May. So if there's one action to take away from today, please share this petition, sign it, get others to sign it, so that we can get it to the magic number of 10,000 signatures, which means that Parliament must take notice of it and consider it. Thank you. Next slide, please. We've also, from a policy point of view, been sharing examples of how the DfE guidance has been implemented, but with perhaps some extreme cases. Some of those are listed here on the screen for you to read. Also, the number of people that have been asked to sign a new agreement. Now, we've got examples of where local authorities have not asked members to sign a new agreement. We've also got examples of where there's been a more pragmatic and considered and consulted approach taken by local authorities. But equally, unfortunately, there have been a number of approaches, the recipe for disaster of different interpretations by local authorities across our nations. And then may I highlight for you that actually the member webinar, the next webinar, is happening on the 15th of May from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, where we're going to be looking at local agreements and actually our research into council underspends, because then we can really find ways to work in partnership. Next slide, please. And my final slide, and that is to say we're really looking forward to seeing many of you at our conference in Liverpool in June. Please book now. We've got some places available, and it's a great opportunity to meet face to face, to network. We've got an inspiring program of speakers, and we'd really like to welcome you in person to this, our flagship in-person event of the year. We've also this year got our practice work stream is actually going to be virtual, enabling practitioners to join from wherever they are in the country. But the leadership stream being in person in Liverpool, we'd really look forward to seeing as many of you as able to join us there. And the link is just going into the chat there. There'll also be another link at the end of this webinar today. So once again, thank you to you for joining us today. Thank you to Hope, and thank you to Camilla. And I'm going to hand back to Glenn. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Tim. Well, I'm going to swiftly hand over to Camilla. You don't need to hear any more from me. Camilla is the person you've come to see and hear from. So, Camilla, if you are ready, I'm delighted to pass over to you.
Hello. I've revealed myself. I'm just going to check that these slides work. Oh, didn't click fast enough. I'm sorry, Rose. Could you? There we go. There. Yay, I did it. There we go. Hello. So I've got my first thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, the NDNA. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Rose, for making this all work technically. And hello, and thank you, everybody, for joining us all here today. It's great. Hopefully, we'll see a bit more of each other at the end. But for now, I'll do the talking, and there'll be time at the end for questions. And hope very much that you will have a few to fire at me. So I'm going to just get cracking. This is me. This is me in my studio. That's behind my shelves there. This is what I'm going to talk about in the next hour or so. Yeah, hopefully it'll resonate with you and be familiar to you. We'll show you a little bit of the background that goes on into and the thoughts that go behind my my life and the way I create books for early years children. I'm going to talk about, I'll just run through what I'm going to say. I'm going to talk about my working life up to the point of having children. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the writing that I did subsequent to that and since then. I'm going to talk about the power of story because it's super important and I find it completely fascinating. And I'm going to talk about my campaigning work. And then there'll be Q&As. So this is me at my desk. So in terms of my working life, I started work absolutely ages ago. It feels like, 30 years I've been in publishing, working as a children's book editor. I started off in educational books, doing things like York Notes. Did anybody ever use any of these? That's my first job, was editing those. And then I worked at a whole load of publishers. Here's a list of some of them. And I worked freelance at some of them as well. So I had jobs at all of these. And I don't know if you know, but I was very much involved I was a co-founder of Nosy Crow. I've been writing for now 20 years, which coincidentally is also the age of my eldest child, who turns 20 next week. So that is not a coincidence. I've sold loads of books, and I just got my royalty checks through last week, a few weeks ago, and I sold 1.5 million books last year, which was really nice. That's worldwide. So yeah, so the books, we know early years books are selling well around the world. So that was my working life. My last little bit, really nice that in March I became, I was invited to be writer in residence for Book Trust, which is it's a 6-month little tenureship, and they invite you to campaign and to write and to talk about sort of write essays, sort of little articles for them for their website, and to campaign on an issue that has particular sort of importance for one particular writer. And for me, of course, it is early years shared reading, because I just believe it's so important. So that's what I've cracked on and started doing, and I'm really enjoying it. And that's really very much part of the reason I'm here today, to talk to you guys. I did all my work, and I worked up to about about 2005, and then a big thing happened to me, which was that I had my first daughter. And that's Lenny. There she is, with our cat Ipso. So I had, up to that point, made quite a lot of children's books, and I'd been writing. By that stage, I'd been running Campbell Books, which is the preschool imprint at Macmillan Children's Books, and specializing in early years books, and really enjoying myself and doing what I thought was quite a good job. And then I had my children, and I realized that I had missed a few tricks, I think it's fair to say, and that I thought the books I had done could have been a wee bit better, because it just taught me very much. Motherhood was a sort of huge revelation for me in terms of what books were doing for my child, and what books were doing for me as an adult, and what they were doing for our relationship. So it had a massive effect on the way I viewed books, and realized how profoundly important they were for us as in our relationship, and for the child, and for my daughter. I could see that they were doing massive things for her, all in very, very small ways, but because we were reading tiny little books every day, I could see that they were pushing on her development. They were prompting her to do things. They were encouraging her. They were, in many ways, sort of becoming her friends. They were sort of fostering her development, and I could really see that I found this incredibly inspiring. And though I'm not a scientist, I'm actually the daughter of a scientist, I started to watch myself and watch the way I bought books, and I watched her as well, and I watched the pair of us, and I found it interesting that I had the ability to be quite objective about the way I was using books. So I remember sort of watching myself as I walked into a bookshop as a mum, just wanting to buy a book for my child. And I could watch and I realized that I was really even though I had worked in children's books for years and years and years, and I knew loads of children's books, I had it was a very different experience walking into a shop and going, okay, there's absolutely billions of books here. How do I choose the one that is good for my child? I've got a certain amount of money, not very much money, and I want to spend it really wisely on something that will be really beneficial for her, which will entertain us both. I was really aware of my need to be fulfilled in the relationship with the book as well. I wanted a book that didn't frankly bore me, and I really wanted something that I would find cute and interesting as well. I wanted something that was really rich. I remember thinking I wanted something that felt special and unique and not written by an editor, and didn't feel so generic, if you know what I mean. So I that was a really interesting thing, that you wanted something that you really felt the hand of the author, the hand of a really excellent illustrator had been shone upon this book, had been behind the book. I hope that makes sense. So that was really interesting. And the other thing was that obviously that it taught me about because I could sit there and watch her, the sort of the extent of her understanding, how much she could, I was reading, probably, if I'm honest, I started reading with her probably from the age of 4 or 5 months. I don't think I wanted to do it before then. I think I was quite tired. I was quite shocked by motherhood. I hadn't really grown up around small children. I found the whole tiredness thing. My husband found it all quite shocking. And so I think that we hadn't really got into the routine of really reading before then, even though I literally had a mountain of children's books. Not quite literally. So yeah, so by the time we were starting to read, she was probably 4 or 5 months. And she had a very particular limited scope of her understanding, obviously, and you know this as well as and I've discovered it, that understanding grows so rapidly all the time, every day, and I don't think I quite appreciated how much comprehension they had and how much personality they had in such a small child. And how, as a parent, you're just completely clued into their every tiny gesture, their every facial movement, and it all has meaning for you. And to a passing person who's never been involved with a child, they just look like, I don't know, squidgy little caterpillars, little blobs, and they're not. They're not. They are deeply inquisitive, and they have such extraordinary understanding. Anyway, so basically I started to appreciate this. I started to appreciate the scope of their understanding, but in the same time, I started to appreciate its limits, that they weren't interested in certain things. For example, I remember trying to read a book on space to Lenny at some point in her childhood. I can't remember what age it was, but she was just completely like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because she didn't even know that the world was round, because she was just little. So that's a sort of example that you kind of wanted to make. I realized I wanted to make the books that I wrote incredibly relatable, incredibly meaningful for her. And so that I, as a parent, didn't have to do any explaining or any work, that they would just latch onto it and immediately think that it had value for them. So that's basically how it changed my sort of view of my job and how it changed my writing. So I'm going to talk now a little bit about, early years engagement was what I'm going to talk about. So I just thought I'd talk briefly about how sort of running through the various things, the ways in which early years children, and it's very hard to, just to say, it's very hard to talk about early years children in one chunk, because you know and I know that there's such a massive difference between a 6-month-old and 2.5-year-old, and yet they're all sort of lumped into this early years thing. So but I suppose my real heartland is 0 to 2. So I'll talk about them really, but I mean also it does extend into the 3s and 4-year-olds as well. But when they first start to engage with a book, it's incredibly visual. And so I started to think and observe the way she was evaluating a book and sort of how she went on a visual journey through the book. And, obviously when they're very tiny, they're massively programmed and geared towards responding to faces. So I always tried to knit into many, many more faces into books than I had done previously. I hadn't sort of quite realized how much they are absolutely geared, sort of hardwired to connect with eyes and to connect with faces. They want a lot of colors, obviously, and you'll know this, that they like high contrast and they like colors. They like bright colors and simplicity of image. And so I'm very much focused on trying to provide something which they could appreciate very, very quickly without too much complexity, so that they could absolutely latch onto it. And also the other thing to say is that they very much like change. So if I was looking at a spread of a book, or the sequence of a book, as you turn the pages, I'm always I started to do this, I started to make sure that every time you turned a page, you were presented with a completely new set of colors and a new kind of dynamic to the page, so that you really knew that you had turned the page and you got their attention back. If their attention was wandering, it came back because they were like, oh, interest, newness. So in terms of the way they were listening to the words, and they were starting to hear and to repeat the words, for them it was really important that they could obviously understand what was being said, so that they needed to have something which related to the words they were hearing all the time, but also occasionally started to present in new words that you were just starting to sort of sew into their world, interesting new words that they will have not heard before, but so that they can expand, they can latch onto those, expand their vocabulary. So they like newness too. It was very obviously that when you're a very, very small child, I hadn't quite appreciated how much the physical engagement is important to them. They need to touch a book. They need to have that experience of turning the pages. So nice chunky pages are really great. You don't want them to be, you need the books to be really robust so they don't fall apart and they stand up to being used. But also it's the tactile experience. And I love this little picture, which I just pulled off the internet, but that little finger of that little boy, he's starting to explore that world of that page through touch. And that's really powerful, because it means that they can start to take charge of that book in a way that has meaning for them. Later on down the line, I mean, they have emotional engagement in the story. And I think this probably they don't have so, you know, they do have emotional engagement before one, but it's quite very much about joy and discovery and change and excitement. But as they get a little bit older, they start to be able to identify with character. They start to be able to look at a character on the page. I don't think they can do it really before one. That was my observation. But as they start to develop a sense of self, and of that they are different to other people, they start to be able to identify with another self, a character on a page, and project themselves onto that character, so that they that can then identify with the narrative journey that character takes. And so I'm going to talk about this word, the fun word, all the way through this, because I take the business of delivering fun incredibly seriously. And well, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more over the next few minutes, but I don't think I really need to say it to you guys, because you know this, but play is the work of children. And we have devised play over millions of years, over thousands of years, as humans, as a human race, as a species. We've devised play, excuse me, for all mammals, actually, as a way of learning how to adult. And this is equally true for reading, that to learn how to read, to learn to want to read, to understand that reading is as an activity that is worthwhile doing, you have to have fun doing it. So I started to then set about the business of thinking about what fun is for a very small child, and to really deconstruct it, and then try to build it up again into new ideas, and to create new books out of that. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have I've got a bit of a croak coming on. Hold on, I'm going to have a little drink. So, oh, look, there I am, looking very serious, going about my business of writing. So, going back to where I was, that this was me. I'd moved on in time, and the observant amongst you will notice that another one had arrived, and that was Hester. I failed, unfortunately, to manage to produce one of each gender, so I went very girl heavy on my child production. But this very much was me as a young mum and young writer. And at this stage, I started to write books and juggle being a mum at home. And this is familiar if you've had kids. This is pretty much how we spent our life: going to the park, going onto the swings, and going home again. And this was how I started to write for Lenny. And then Hester joined in too. But the first series I wrote was a series called was about a little girl called Lulu, sprung from Lenny, because I used to call her Lenny Lou. And I wrote the first title of those was a book called Lulu's Shoes, which you can see is on the middle row on the far right hand side, because I noticed, and Lenny became, and at that moment of one, when they're just starting to learn to walk, she was completely fascinated by the sort of technical aspect of shoes, the buckles and the laces and the Velcro. And so I wrote this little story which was an interactive story, which gave her lots of physical engagement. And I wrote about just this one book, and I took it to a publisher, to Bloomsbury, and they published it. And happily, as you will see, spoiler alert, it turned into a series. But I just thought I'd quickly show you, in case it's of interest. This is the really rubbish slide. I'm so sorry, it's so bad, but it's my pencil sketch that I took to Bloomsbury back in 2006 or whatever it was, maybe it's 7 by then. 2006 probably. And you can see that I've just drawn basically what was my small child, and I was just coming up with an idea for how it might work, and that was a sort of Velcro, but buckle on the shoe, and this is another page which had some laces on it, and there was a dog, and then I'm going to tab forward, and this is what that first spread turned into. So Bloomsbury took it and gave it to a proper illustrator who did Ailey Busby, who did the most lovely job of it. And you can see those swings made an appearance, and Mummy Shoes made an appearance. And that was what turned into the previous spread turned into that. We couldn't afford two laces, so she just had one shoe hidden behind the other. And then at the end, of course, can you guess what her favorite shoes are? Well, this was both my children, so I assume it's the true of lots of children, but of course it's their first pair of little wellies. That was the climax of it, the ending. I'll go back to that one. So then I started writing some more books, and I thought they were quite good. Unfortunately, nobody else agreed with me, and I got an agent, and she schlepped them around to all the publishers in London who nobody wanted to publish them. So I went to the drastic measure, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to everybody, to start up a new publishing company. And the new publishing company was going to be called Golden Pear Books. That's what's the little story behind that, was that in sort of December 2009, Kate and Adrian, who are the people I started up the company with, were very much set upon having it to be called Golden Pear. And then I kept telling other people, my husband and friends and friends' husbands, that it's going to be called Golden Pear, and everybody, they all just laughed, and we realized that Golden Pear was not a good name for a children's publishing company, because for some reason that I didn't really understand, men found it funny. Anyway, we decided to call it Nosy Crow, and that's what this is basically me in sort of January, I think it must have been January 2010, deciding what the logo trying to experiment with what the logo of Nosy Crow might be, and trying to work out what a nosy bird would look like. And basically, you can see here that I was looking up and down, but I started to realize that nosiness looked like looking one way and then pointing the other way, or pointing one way and looking the other way. And there's also, I thought you might like be nice that there was nice to see that there's if you look top right, a small girl came and helped me join in my sketching. Anyway, this is what it turned out to be. So my sketch, I sort of refined all those sketches to the one on the left, and the one on the right is what it became. That was a sort of photoshopped version of it. Axel Scheffler was one of the other investors in the company and directors of the company, and he had done a logo, but it was too Axel-y. Just looked exactly like him and looked like it would be Axel's publishing company. So we didn't use them. We ended up using mine, but we photoshopped on his legs, his crow's legs onto it. So that's his handwriting, my crow, and his legs. And that's the logo. Anyway, one of the books that I wrote and had been schlepping around to all the companies and been rejected was this series, which was Busy Bear, and that's on the left hand side is my sketch, just so that you kind of see how rough and rubbish it is. And then when we started the company, I asked Benji I became editorial director, and I was started to run the early years list and build the early years list. And my first commission was this title, and that was Farmyard Fun, which is a series of slider books. Again, one of my big learnings was slider books are fantastic, and they get really involved in them, and you won't need me to tell you that they love animals. So it was farms as the first book. that has subsequently grown into a huge series that has done incredibly well. That sold over 25 million copies around the world. So my hunch that it was okay was proved right. The other series that I really I thought was quite good was a series that I'd written, which was called Duck and Birdie. And I realized that when she was sort of 12 months, maybe 18 months old, running, maybe 18 months running up to 2, she started to need more story to the books, and they needed to be more action, more excitement, but they needed to be incredible, and they needed to have lots of emotional involvement, lots of drama needed to happen, bad stuff needed to happen. But they needed to have a very happy ending, but it needed to be incredibly simply told. So I wrote these stories about 2 characters called Duck and Birdie, and they were just, again, very relatable, home, domestic setting, but slightly different because they were characters that were more like children, except they have no parents. Anyway, I brought them to Nosy Crow, and Kate suggested to Axel that he illustrate them. And unfortunately, Axel isn't very good at drawing ducks or birds. So he's better on a rodent. So they became Pip and Posy. And these stories are, and I'll tab to one, as you'll see, there's loads of Axelness, and I have a very, very light role in these. There's not that many words, they're very simply told, but they're really great for this very, very young age group when they want to move on from the board books, when they've got narrative, they've got the trajectory of a story, they're sort of subscribed to the whole notion of, I'm going to read a story and something's going to happen and this is how it's going to resolve, but they just need this simple text. So Axel was perfect for it because he has such intricate illustrations, and he always brings in this sort of cast of sort of silent movie characters that go on in the background that are always, they're dropping ice creams and eating worms and, baby birds and things like that. So he's perfect for that, that sort of role. This is what I've tried to do, was to put in loads of, again, excitement, drama, bad stuff happens. But I gave them all the way through these little refrains that is sort of the narrator, but the child can join in with, careful, Posy. Oh dear. So we have a lot of oh dears. Yeah. Just to quickly add, you can see that I love that caterpillar that's on that stick at the back. I put a lot of animals in my stories. I know people talk a lot about children being represented, but in stories, and I totally get that. But I always like to make my stories about animals because, for lots of reasons, I think it makes them very universal. I think it makes it sweeter for some reason. I think there must be a PhD study on why we like seeing animals dressed in trousers doing stuff, but it's not, I haven't written that PhD, but I'm sure there is a PhD on it, somebody who wants to do it. But I think that the other reason, as well as the universality of animals and the sweetness, the other reason is that it may create a world that looks like a familiar world, but at the same time you can break the rules. So Pip and Posy live separate, they're friends, they live separately in separate houses, they have absolutely no parents, but they spend their time sort of riding around on scooters and having sort of issues that toddlers have, like wee accidents and things like that. So it's a kind of weird, familiar but not quite right world, but you can only do that with animals, and you can only do things like this, which is have an animal fall off a scooter, have a terrible accident, clearly very dangerous, should be wearing a helmet, also some bad things going on with frisbees in the background, and you can only do that and not for it not to be alarming if it's an animal. It's Posy, she's covered in fur, she's going to get up, she's going to be fine. But you couldn't do that if that was a human character, because you would get letters, and you don't want that. Oh, I've just whizzed through, sorry. So basically, I carried on making lots of books. This series was very successful. It's a felt flap series, illustrated by Ingela Piorenius, who did an amazing job of those. And I wanted to do a new version of a new sort of spin-off series using Ingela. So we came up with this. I sort of worked out that what was great about Ingela was her amazing colours and the sort of graphic simplicity of her work, but also particularly her faces. They're so massively engaging. So I wrote this series, which is the Peekaboo series, and that's sort of done incredibly well. And they have sliders and lots of activities and mirrors at the end. And mirrors, I'll come to talk about in a minute. I think mirrors are really important. But that's basically my roughs on the left-hand side. That's how I work out the sort of how the book, the novelties back up to each other, because I use them on both sides, which is a sort of a bit of a first, but it's quite complicated to make it work. Yeah, and that's what they turned into on the left. So you can see that top spread on the top right it's there on the second one down. And yeah, those deer are still in there. I think they might have been lambs or something, bottom left. Anyway, they made an appearance. They became deers. This was a series I wrote to very much try and to foster the relationship between big person and little person. And it's a sort of love letter between from adult to child. And so you're looking for the cutest little person ever, or the happiest little person ever, or the loveliest little person ever. So this is very much what I was trying to do emotionally. This is a new series that's come out with Macmillan. And so I can see two fairy ears. Is that the cutest little person ever? Oh, I wonder if it is. Can you guess? No, that's just Bunny. So it's a felt flap series, but lots of lovely flaps to find to lift and move. But what I'm also doing is trying to get this emotional engagement. I think that parents want from a book want more of an emotional engagement than the child does. I think the child just wants fun. I think that the adult wants all the time to feel like that connection with their child is being fostered and valued. So I think that I hope that this does that by, I can see two beautiful eyes and a super cute little nose. Is that the cutest little person ever? Yes, it is. You're the cutest little person ever. I love putting mirrors in books because I think it makes the child the star of the book. And I think that when they're very little, before they can really hook onto character, that's very flattering and very powerful for them, because you're saying, you're the star of this book. You're the most important person in this book. And it's sort of it's sort of preempting the moment where they start to fix onto character, because at the moment they see themselves in the book, but then they'll start to see themselves in the character within the book, which is sort of another conceptual leap. This is the most recent series I've done, which again with Macmillan, and again this is another very, very early character that I'm sort of hoping will develop a little further, but it's Dot, who's a little leopard character, sort of multicolored leopard. And this is very much about me giving parents almost a dialogue. I mean, not a dialogue, a sort of a script to read. I think that when you're a very young parent, it's very tiring. And I think books can be really helpful because they help you to go on a journey with your child. We know that that we all bond over shared experiences, and shared experiences can often come through a journey. And I think that books are very much like going on a journey with a small child. and and going on a journey with them is can be hard work, but if you give the parent a script to read, it makes it much easier for them. So this is me sort of helping parents who are tired at the end of the day to have a chat with their child and to have a shared experience, but making it quite easy for them. So I've done a little video for this, so I'll just read this quickly. So I would read this like this. Excuse me, but have you seen Dot? Dot looks like this. Oh, is Dot in the tree? And oh, where's my little arrow gone? Oh, oh dear. Sorry, everybody. I'm having a technical malfunction. I can see the arrow, but it keeps disappearing. Oh dear. Oh, it's done it. Don't know if somebody else has done that for me, but thank you. Is Dot in the tree? Slider. Oh, no, that's B. B's in the tree, not Dot. Not Dot. Then we've got another one. Is Dot in the pram? No, Sam's in the pram, so where's Dot? Is Dot in the house? Let's have a look. Oh, let's have a look. No, Mouse is in the house. Oh, and look, there are B and Sam too. Oh, now, could Dot be in the chair? No, Bear's in the chair. I have a great idea. Dot's in the hat. Oh, no, I was wrong. Cat's in the hat. Silly me. Oh, now, so maybe, just maybe, Dot's in the bed. Yes. Oh, yes. Dot's in the bed with Ted, and B and Sam and Mouse and Bear and Cat. So we found Dot and everyone else, but where are you? Oh, here you are. Hooray! There we go. So that's basically just to sum up what I'm trying to do with my books. This is actually a slide that I do a lot if I give it to people who are saying they want to be writers or illustrators. And it's a sort of my little acronym, which is phew, what books should have. I think books should have purpose, they should have heart, they should have edge, and they should have wit. And I think that is what I sort of aim to try and do whenever I create a new idea. I have that just floating in the back of my head just to think, has it ticked these boxes? Does the child, I think the children have an absolute instinct to enjoy themselves and to learn and to have fun in a book. But they also want to learn. I think it's really interesting, the human need to learn. And if you just had any of my books, which were just a sort of random, collection of images with no narrative, with no development, with no ending, they wouldn't be satisfying. Story is, and even if it's a very simple narrative evolution, story is profoundly important for humans and for children, even from the various youngest of ages, because they want to learn. They don't want to learn if it's difficult or if it's boring or if it's or it feels like they're learning, or if they're being tested. One thing I just wanted to add, I forgot to say, in that bit I'll just go back to it. Oh, sorry, everybody. On this spread, I do a thing which is say, I have a great idea. This is the adult saying this, Dot's in the hat. And then I'm wrong. I have a little guess, and then the author is wrong or the reader is wrong. And I think that's really important, because there is, all the way through this book, there is a sort of there are clues to what's in the various objects. Bear's in the chair, Mouse is in the house, and so on. Sam's in the pram. Cat's in the hat. You know the answer is wrong. But I wanted to show, and I did this very instinctively, but I realized afterwards that it was quite a good thing, that I was showing that it's not a test, it's just a journey. We're looking at it, that the reader is sort of saying that I've made a mistake. And I wanted to write, I think that's important, that you write looseness into books, so that they aren't that they are just fun, and that you can make mistakes, that there isn't a rightness and a wrongness to them. Anyway, I just wanted to add that. Have I said all the things I wanted to say? Oh yeah, one thing I just wanted to add at the end is that I think everybody, this is just the end of this section. I think children want to learn and feel engaged and have fun in the book, and the adults want to feel very much the same things, but they have slightly different experiences, the adult and the child. I think the adult wants to have fun, but I think their way of having fun is slightly different. And I think that's why I always try to make my books look as beautiful as possible, so that the adult does find joy from the illustrations and joy from the sort of the quirk of the book, if possible. Because I think that they really like slightly nostalgic art as well, which makes them feel happy and safe, and sort of slightly reminds them of their childhood. Anyway, yeah, that was just another point I wanted to add. Anyway, got lost. Here I am. Okay. There we go. Sorry, I'm whizzing through it. Right, power of story. Let's talk about the power of story. We are weird, weak animals with no claws and no teeth, and we're born without fur, and we can't run as soon as we're born, and we're pretty useless as animals, but we do have these huge brains. And when we are, this huge brain that we are born with is, as from the moment we're born, out there trying to sort out and organize the way we experience the world, is to sort of we try to reduce the world and to organize the chaos. And we do that through story. We are storytelling animals. So we are bombarded with all the stuff that goes on in the world. But if we reduce it all to small, delightful narrative threads, we tell ourselves stories, we organize the world into stories, the world starts to make more sense for us. So we do that all the way through our lives, but we start doing it from childhood. I think it's really interesting that we continue to tell stories to each other, and we read stories and we consume stories all the time, all the way through our lives. And so we have to get better at it, but we have to start doing it in childhood. Adults have always used stories to connect with children and to start them off in that process. Adults use stories to open their eyes to the joy of the world, to the excitement of it, the beauty of it. We use stories to teach them lessons. We use stories to warn them. I think there's a lot of stories which are about the dangers of the world. We wrap them up in big bad wolves and nasty stepmothers and monsters, but that's basically adults equipping children with the tools that they need to get on in the world. I think it's really important, and I'm sure you know this, that children need to be able to tell their own stories, and they need to be able to articulate themselves, to express themselves, to ask for things and to explain why they need things, and they need the words, they need the tools to do that. And they also need to be, because of story, they need to learn to be the hero of their own story. They need to write their own story. I think they need to see that they can have agency within their own lives, that they can make mistakes, they can meet challenges, but they can work and direct their lives, as far as possible towards having an outcome that they've got in mind. And I think that's telling your own story. So I think that's why we need to think about how important it is. Oh, I just thought I'd write down all the different stories that I could think of. There are loads. It amused me. I'm sure I've forgotten a few, but we're telling stories all the time. I think it's really interesting that Instagram have stories. It's the same thing. And yeah. Oh, I've got stuck. I don't know why, but I'm no longer able to move anything. Ooh. Okay, okay. Don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. I thought I'd talk about shared reading, and there's a slightly alarming picture of a penknife on the other side, but I will come and talk to you about what that is in a minute. Whether we like it or not, stories now, oral stories, are pretty much always delivered to us through books, delivered to children through books. Obviously, there's screens as well, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I mean, there are some amazing parents who tell stories without using books, and that is absolutely fantastic. But really, stories are delivered to us now in book form. And that's how we consume them. And that's fantastic, because the printed word allows us to consume so many different types of stories, and they're visual, and they've got sliding bits and moving parts and flaps to lift. And I think that's so powerful and excellent. But the key thing, and my message that I want to talk about all the time, is that needs to start. If you're going to start this journey, it's so great if you can start it as early as possible. Because this is the area that you work in, that the 0 to 3 years are absolutely foundational. And if you get them right, in all aspects of a child's life, you're setting a child up to be in a much better position for the rest of their lives. And the same goes for reading. If you set up a good reading practice in those early years, then they are much more likely to feel the benefits later on down the line. So that the love of reading, and the whole good practice that I'm talking about, is really something that starts at home, on a lap, on a sofa, on a bed. And the work that you guys do is very much an extension of that. But what I want to talk to you about is how important it is that reading at home message starts to come across. As you know, the benefits for the child are absolutely, and this is where my penknife metaphor comes into play, that a small book does so many different things for a child. It has this amazing, powerful effect on their cognitive development. It's helping their speech and language, their listening, their focus, their concentration, their critical thinking, their memory, their hand-eye coordination, their fine motor skills, and then later on down the line, their social and emotional skills too. And all this is happening in one story. Oh, I've done social and emotional there. And of course, this sets them up for basically, and we need to acknowledge this, that a lot of school is spent working with the written word, working with books, working with decoding, whether it's in maths or in English. And decoding is what reading is. And so setting them up to find reading fun and interesting and engaging is setting them up for a better, positive school experience. From my point of view, I think that the effect that shared reading has on the child's sense of self-confidence and security is almost as beneficial as the cognitive and school preparation aspect. This whole moment when you sit down with a child, whether in the nursery setting or at home, but particularly at home, when you sit down and you you sit with the child on your lap, and you cuddle up together, and your bodies are calm, your heart rate slows. This sense of security, this lovely quiet moment that this provides, and the learning that goes, and the experience that goes with it, the little journey that you go on with it into the book, is enormously beneficial to a child. And as you almost certainly know, that children who grow up reading and sharing books and reading for fun of it have greater life opportunities, and the data goes to show that they have better life outcomes. Reading for pleasure starts at home in the lap, and I just want to talk about very quickly the power of habit and how important that is. I think it's something that we don't talk about enough, because people are reluctant to want to feel dictatorial or didactic to families. But I think that we forget how difficult reading is as a thing to learn to do, and that it takes a lot of practice, and that if you keep doing it in small amounts on a regular basis, it is much more effective than doing it in large doses. And I think that if a child likes the experience of reading books and wants to keep doing it, they are far more incentivized to want to learn to read. And that is hugely powerful. And that is the thing that I feel that is missing in the messaging a lot when we talk about early years reading. So basically, my one small thing would be the power of a bedtime story, or a power of a story in a book in a day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. A regular story where you both sit down, connect, and share this little journey, that is incredibly powerful. What is early years reading? I just wanted to talk briefly about this. It is definitely listening. It's looking at the books. It is turning the pages. It's lifting the flaps. It is not teaching a child to learn to read. I think you know this. And the most important thing it needs to be is, of course, fun. So just quickly, my tips for sharing books. These I try to do as tips which would sort of apply across through from, that will be relevant to you guys and also to parents. It's generally agreed that if you can, try and let the child choose the book. Children want to have agency, they want to have power, they want to be able to drive the storytelling experience, which is why I think they like interactive books so much, and I think interactive books are so good for them. So I would say try and let them be involved in the choice of book. Your enjoyment is absolutely profound. Your body language, everything that you're conveying when you read a book is picked up by the child, who are ultra sensitive, because they're absolutely cued into and programmed to take their cues from you. So your positive enjoyment is absolutely huge. Use rhyme and song because it has predictability. If they can predict what's coming next, if they can remember it, then they feel engaged in it. Then they feel that they have power over it, and they enjoy it more because they've read it already and they know what's coming, and that makes them engage more. Get interactive books. The ones I write have loads of flaps to lift, some element which invites the child into the book. I know it's difficult in a group setting, but the physical engagement can extend to joining in with the words. If the child feels like the book needs them, which is why I do those refrains in Pip and Posy. If the book needs them, that's very flattering to them. It's a bit like the mirror, coming back to the mirror thing. If they have meaning, if the book has meaning for them, it's much more involving. Make it a habit. Do it regularly, even if it's for just short periods of time, probably because it's for just short periods of time. Go on a journey. I think all books are, as I've just said already, is about the journey. I think journey is hugely important to children. Sometimes you want to read from the text, sometimes, and that's great, and it's important to do that. But I would be really encouraging to just start to look out the window on this page, if you know what I mean, just to see what's going on out and talk about the what else you can see in the pictures. I think that's really powerful too, and it stops books being about being right and wrong. Chill out. If they don't want to do it, you know, if they want to go and play with something like that little kid in the background, that's fine. I think it just to keep the relaxed vibes around books is a really powerful thing. 2, I would say praise, great reading. Every time you finish a book, great reading us. If you can, I would love to suggest that you make stories and books, if you don't already, central to nursery life. If you set up like a PlayStation or a little, not, you know, like a little sensory play table, bring a book along to start giving it meaning. Sort of say, you know, just to prompt things that you do. If you can make books and stories central to all their play, they can, I think they love building narrative into play. I think children often, and I watch my kids play, they often tell stories internally all the time and use books as sort of bounce off points to their play. But I think if you can foster that, that will be great. So even if you're doing music or cooking, you can involve books in it, stories. It's not like I'm saying that books are own story. Story is the thing we're interested in here. I mean, books are really important because that's the way we consume story now. I hope that makes sense. But it's about story because that benefits the kids so much. Oh, did I mention this? And we need to make sure it's fun. Okay, the challenges. I'm going to have to start talking faster, aren't I? The challenges are, oh yes, screens. It's huge. We've got a big problem with screens. They are dominating all our lives. They're dominating the parents' lives. If you can start to talk about that in the nurseries, I think this would be an amazing thing. Maybe you are already, but if you can encourage families to put screens away at home and carve out time without screens that is filled by glorious and wonderful interactive books, that would be great. I say this because it's such a positive experience. That they aren't good for us, screens. We know that. We have a cost of living crisis. People are having a hard time. They can't afford books. Please direct them in the direction of libraries. Time, people feel that they're very time short. I get that too. I'm just asking for 5 minutes a day. I think that is really manageable. If you can't manage 5 minutes a day, I worry slightly. And I think everybody can manage just a short amount of time. I think parental confidence has really dropped. I think parents feel, particularly if English isn't their first language, parents feel lack of confidence around books. Anything you can do to say, don't feel beholden to the book, just read the visual story to them, just start getting them involved in books. No sure start is a problem. I don't think we're getting messages across that how important books and reading are, and sharing reading time is, because the Sure Start program doesn't exist anymore. So the messaging is a bit weak in my view. I think the other really powerful thing, or really destructive thing actually, is that the messaging is that that reading is in the hands of teachers, and that as soon as, and I get this, I'm told this by Book Trust, that they see that the levels of that reading, the shared reading at home thing absolutely falls off a cliff from the moment the child starts school, and that's a disaster, because this is the exact moment where the children need to be encouraged and given confidence by and inspired by books that are exciting and interesting, not just book bags and reading schemes, which I'm sorry if you've written them, but they're just really boring and nobody loves reading them. parents don't, children don't, and it's just the death of fun, reading for fun. So anything we can do to encourage parents to keep reading at home through the primary school years would be great from my point of view. Because the statistics and all the data shows that school-age children are reading for pleasure less and less, and this is really not good because they are massively disadvantaged by this. The skill that reading for pleasure teaches them cognitively and in terms of how it sets them up for all the reading they're doing through primary years. It's an amazing skill that they need. This affects us all because literacy is the key to social mobility. If children, their literacy levels are falling, it affects the attainment gap on educational standards and the attainment gap, and we get inequality entrenched into our society. And as a child who had a working class dad who was educated and left and had opportunities opened up to him, I really feel this hugely, that this is not fair. And also it has a wide economic effect on the whole country, that if we aren't doing well, if our children aren't doing well, that means we're all not going to do well. Nursery initiatives, if you can, what I'd love to encourage you to do is to create an early year reading lead, somebody who really sees it as their role to talk to parents and empower them to read at home. Obviously, everything that I've said today equally applies in the nursery setting, but the key, this love of reading and this security and confidence that it has to start from, because of attachment theory, you know this, that has to start from the home setting. If you can, maybe you may have these already, and I'm sorry, I don't want to in any way. You're hugely experienced and dedicated and involved professionals. You've been doing this for many, many years, so you may have these already. But if you don't, how about a little lending library? How about a book swap initiative in reception? Maybe a display. You all have amazing displays in reception. Could you do one around reading for fun and the power of it? How about book bags, starting up just the really fun books? Maybe you could do a book show and tell so that kids bring in and talk about books that they've really enjoyed. And a cousin of mine runs a little nursery in Brighton. They do sleepover evenings where they all turn up, all the kids come in pajamas and they all read together. They run parent workshops. They also have parents who don't speak English as a foreign language coming in and reading books in their language. And they celebrate World Book Day and all the big reading special events throughout the year. There's also a lot of opportunity, and I'm sure you do this already, to communicate through email updates and with PDFs and little printouts and anything through there. My message, as you know by now, is that, well, I haven't said this already, I'm going to say this quickly, that there's a psychological theory, and actually anybody who works in advertising knows this, that the two key drivers of human behavior are social copying and habit. So I'm hoping that if you can model this amazing, life-changing thing, which is shared reading at home, this will become a habit, and that everybody else will start, and that they will copy, all start to copy each other. The power of a 5-minute bedtime story to change a child's life. So what am I missing? Please have a think about it. I'm going to answer questions in a minute. I've got 1 more minute. I'm now campaigning more and more to talk about early years reading. Nobody else seems to be doing it in the early years space, so that's why I'm doing it. I'm hoping that my writer in residence moment will have a spiderweb effect, and that I can get this message going out to nurseries, early years practitioners, to educators, to librarians, and we can start to get through to parents that this 5-minute bedtime story moment, even if it's not a bedtime story, is really powerful. I'm starting to kind of create with Book Trust some downloadables. I'm going to show you one in a minute. And I'm hoping to try and talk to Book Trust about the Early Years Foundation Stage Statutory Framework, which I've read. It's huge. I'm sorry you have to do so much. It's enormous, but they don't talk on it about the power of shared reading at home. And I'm just hoping that we can try and maybe adjust that so it does do that. And I'm going to get on the socials. Here's my book bingo card, which I've just created for Book Trust, and that's on their website. It's just recommending some 10 classic books, and I'm going to do a few more of similar things and some posters, I hope. In case you miss it, please share books, please make it fun, please keep doing it, and please keep talking to your families about sharing books at home. Thank you so much for listening. Here's a very cute picture of a very small child reading Peekaboo Chick to end on. Do you know what? Please, we're going to have questions, but if you don't ask a question, please get in touch. Please let me know what you think I should be doing. Here are my contact details, and that's it. Oh, there you go. I'll stop pressing buttons now.
That's it. Yeah, we don't go too far onto the end of webinar poll. Yeah, but yeah, thank
Like in
you.
your talk.
That's right. Yeah, thank you, Camilla. That was great. So hopefully we've got quite a bit of time for some questions. So there's the Q&A function, which is at the bottom of the screen for people. So please don't be shy. And please start putting your questions there. I'll keep an eye out for them. I know that Tim, our chief executive, said he's got some questions for you that may kick things off. Tim, if you're there, you said you got some questions.
I am indeed. Firstly, Camilla, thank you so much for what you've shared with us, especially the top tips. That was going to be one of my first questions. What would be your top tips for us to take away? And I was really grateful for what you shared there, and also highlighting the challenges that we face. But my first question to you is, what book would you recommend if you were thinking of, do you know what, this is a real surefire one for a group reading session?
Oh gosh, that's really put me on the spot. See, I mean, I write early years books, and I write interactive books quite a lot of the time, and I think that they are not absolutely brilliant for early years reading, because there's such a one-on-one, I'm not early years reading, for group reading,
Group, yeah.
because they are so interactive and they ask the child to be engaged. But of my books, I would say that the Pip and Posy books are really good because they've got so much involvement. I'm going to look on my shelf. What would I say? I mean, I always go for the classics. So I do love Each Peach Pear Plum. I mean, on that, the books that I recommended on that bingo are the books that I absolutely love. So Mr. Magnolia, I particularly love
Do you want
because,
to just go back a slide? I think it was there. It's only a click away.
Mr. Let's see if somebody doing that for me. Thank
There
you.
we go.
Mr. Magnolia has a rhyme which goes all the way through it, which is so brilliant to be for a shared reading experience. Rhyme is really brilliant. Because they know it's coming. If you've read it before, they know it's coming, so they can shout it out. So I would say Mr. Magnolia. We're going on a bear hunt is absolutely fantastic, because it's got this, again, this, you can all get involved in the noises. You could all hand them out musical instruments and they could do the swish, 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 swish. They could all act it out. So those two are absolutely brilliant for the very young ones. The Snail and the Whale, you know, I cry at every, there are 2 points in The Snail and the Whale where I choke up and cry at every point. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. Who doesn't fill up at that point? It's a, you know, that's a wonderful story that, you know, talking about going on journeys, that is a book where you go round the world. I mean, it's not just you go on a journey to, you know, you're around your local area. You go to Borneo in it. It's and to the poles. It's an absolutely beautiful book, and beautiful in heart and spirit, as well as just you know, visually. So those are, I mean, those, all of those books there are great read along books, and you know, are surefire hits in my view.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Glenn. I think we've got some other questions now. Thank you, Camilla.
Yes, there's a few coming in, which is great. So thanks to everyone for that. Well, the first one is, where can we get your books? Get them into our nursery. So
All good bookshops.
I thought that
Um,
might be the answer. Yeah.
Thank you for asking. Yes, you know, you can get them from you know, online from any uh big retailers that begin with A and end in Amazon. I mean, in Amazon. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And you know, they're around and about. I also do. I'm also stocked quite widely in supermarkets as well, where they are very reasonably priced.
Excellent, excellent. The same person has asked, would you recommend using a small group for sending home a book with a notebook and getting parents to write in the book to say what the child said about the book? Sorry, I repeated that a few times, but so you understand what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, if you maybe, I always want to give parents an as easy a ride as possible, and if they are willing to, if it's, I just want them to have fun. So if parents want to do that because it records and they note and they find it interesting to note what their child has done, and if the practitioners want to read them and you start a dialogue, then that is absolutely brilliant. I just just thought it would be nice if they went home with the book, perhaps that they've enjoyed in school, in, you know, nursery, that they could then continue and share with their parents. So if a child has particularly enjoyed something, so that they could get extra, they could share it, and they could, you know, I think children love to, I didn't mention this, but I think children love showing off their knowledge to parents and impressing their parents. Or they, you know, when I say parent, it could be carers, grandparents, elder siblings, but they love their key adult. They love being able to show off what they know. So if there's a book they've particularly enjoyed and they can take it home and show how much they, you know, look, I know this one, I know what's coming. I think that's again, that is really powerful. And so, so yes, anything that gets them going.
Well, absolutely. And I think there's been a bit of interest into that in that book bingo as well. Someone's asked where you can find that book bingo, and again, whether you recommend sending that home with parents and just sort of finding out if they've had a go at trying to fill out the book bingo.
Yeah, I mean, it might depend. If you might want to think about whether you stock those books. They're all absolutely fantastic books, so that you could sort of send them home with them. That may be something that you could start up. You know, it's always hard to know what books to choose because people need to have access to them. But yeah, that is on, at the moment, it's on the Book Trust website, but I can send that to you. I'm also hoping, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys was, would a poster, similar sort of poster, kind of cool looking, groovy looking poster, which talked about why reading is so fun and so good for you both, and top tips, and it's all quite light-hearted and jolly, but is getting the message home. Is that something that you could make use of? There's a printable. I think maybe if it would be an A3 printable. Oh, look, there's a little.
I sort of thought, yeah, I didn't know that function existed, but yeah, there we go. Thumbs up, folks. Yeah, there's a
Somebody
few.
liked it. Oh,
Yeah, yes, please. Yeah, there we go. So I think
oh,
that's
okay.
a ringing endorsement. So
So yeah,
one,
there's just a few more sort of some printables basically. Could you make use of printables? Would that be something that you would actively like to see? Okay, there's loads of hearts and thumbs. Love that. Yeah, or novelty clapping.
yes, that's good. That yeah. One nursery says that they are running a book club, and they have read Pip and Posy, the birthday party, and she
Oh
wants to
yeah.
ask how you select the subjects for your books, and is it more, or is it more of an inspiration?
Inspiration completely. It's a load of mostly everything that I do is about inspiration. It's quite often happens on a dog walk. I find that very in sort of moment where you get into a rhythm of thinking about things, and it's very loose. There's no screen distracting you. I mean, the early Pip and Posies were, the first one was Super Scooter, the next one was The Little Puddle, which is about potty training. And the next one was it was The Scary Monster, which was written very much because my daughter, I tried to read a book to her called Not Now Bernard, which is a book about, I don't know if you've ever read it, it's got about a little boy who's ignored by his parents and then turns into a monster. She found it absolutely terrifying and became completely horrified by the prospect of monsters, and she hated the Gruffalo because it was far too scary. So I found it quite fun and joyful to make Axel do a story about a monster that actually turns out to be just a rabbit in a suit.
So, so following on from that, someone says, how long does it take from conception to print for these books then?
Oh, ages. Blooming ages. It's like, gestation period of, I don't know, blue whale or something. I don't know quite what blue whale's gestation period is, just saying, but they can take a long time or you can rattle them out, but it's the illustration which takes a long time. My stuff I sort of hone over a period of a few months, I suppose, and then depending on the illustrator, it can take a long time. They might have a really busy schedule as well. So, and you also do this thing where you make the book, you turn it into a proof which looks exactly like a real book, and then you take it to we go to this big book fair which is in Italy called Bologna, the Bologna Book Fair, and we try to pre-sell and get other publishers to join in our print run. And that's how the sort of economics of book publishing works, is that you get lots of other publishers to join in, so you get these economies of scale. So when you print the book, you're printing your French language, your Finnish language, your Chinese, all at the same time. And that's the sort of general plan. So that
All
has
right.
to happen a long time in advance.
All right, that was interesting. Didn't know about that. So we've just got a couple of minutes left. So, and I've got questions in two different screens. So, one has asked it, how can practitioners effectively use storytelling to support children with English as an additional language?
Well, yeah, I think that this is a huge, I mean, this isn't my area of expertise, I have to be honest, but a lot of my books are very visual, so I think that if you can take the cue from the visual, that you don't stick to the script and the text, that you help them through just storytelling so that they can learn the visual storytelling themselves. And lots of books are available in foreign languages,
And they
but
follow that up with children with additional needs as well.
yeah, I have to say that that this isn't my area of expertise, so I'm really sorry. I might have to defer to somebody who knows about additional needs more than I do. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. So, last couple of questions then. What book would you recommend for younger babies?
Um, the tiny books, tiny babies, I would always recommend the Felt Flat books, which is a series that I did at Nosy Crow, which are these ones, those ones. I don't know if you've, but they've just got these really amazed. They're very, very young, and you're just looking for the animal. And because they've got this felt flap in them, they've got really bright, fantastic images. And because they've got this felt, they're pretty much indestructible. And I think that you give them a message that come, get involved in the book, touch the book, look for the stuff, say the words. And then, of course, I made these books at Nosy Crow, but then you get a mirror at the end. And absolutely every baby, and I get messages from parents all the time showing their babies kissing themselves in the mirrors. They love it. So I recommend. There's a whole series of them. There's that lot all behind there.
And someone says you're going to make more books.
Yes.
I think we probably knew the answer to that
I mean,
one.
I can't help myself. I'm like a chicken laying eggs. I just keep laying them. There's more dots to come, and I've got a really exciting new series coming up with some characters, some new characters that are coming out who are like two friends that go on adventures. So yeah, that's quite exciting.
All right, great. Well, we'll just do one last question before we finish then, because someone's asked if you would recommend a reading pack with bullet points about the importance of reading and how to get the child engaged with the stories, which I guess is aimed at parents.
Would you recommend a reading pack? I mean, the Book Trust website has absolutely loads of information on it that is fantastic. They have so much resources. They have loads of downloadables. So that definitely would be the place I would turn for that. Book Trust.
Excellent. Well, I think we put quite a few links in the chat there for everybody. Lots of Book Trust links there, which is great. So
yeah, and about dual language stuff as well. Yeah, great.
That's it. So thank you to everyone who's attended today. Thank you to Camilla for that for your speech
Pleasure. Thanks for
today.
listening.
I think
Thanks for having
everybody's
me.
really enjoyed that. So to show your appreciation, we just want to ask you to complete our poll at the end here. Has the event made you feel more informed about the latest developments in the sector? That disappeared from my screen very quickly. So thank you for doing that one. I think there's another question coming up. Do you agree that the information you heard today will help you reflect on your practice? Is that question going to appear? Sorry, it came in slightly different order to the screen there. So do you agree that this event has made you more informed about different approaches to reading? I'm hoping for a resounding yes on that one. So let's give you a second to answer on that one. Okay. And have we any more questions to appear? Because I think I've lost what order the things were coming up in. So do you agree that the information you heard today will help you reflect on your practice? You going to answer that question? Okay, so I think we've got a resounding 89% on that one. And is there a final question to appear for our polls? Which is, has this event made you feel more informed about the latest developments in the sector? Is that question appearing? Well, is that all the polls completed? Is it? Right, great.
Any of the comments are put in the chat.
Yes, so thank you to everyone who's attended today. I hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event. And just a reminder here as well about the conference coming up in Liverpool. If you haven't booked your place, please do so. And we hope to see you there. Thank you to everyone.